How's it going, guys? Glad you stopped by. So today we're gonna do a little canning. As you've heard me talk about, and maybe a previous video, or maybe you didn't, we'll review real quick. We're going to can beans, just plain old regular, in today's case, kidney beans. The same process will be for any bean you want to do that's just beans. Say like you need a can of pinto beans or a can of kidney beans or white navy beans. This process is the same for all of them. Times are the same, amounts are the same, water is the same in this case, and they're really easy. Not a whole lot different than, say, the chili beans we made and one of the other canning videos. We're just not adding any spices, not to say you couldn't. You most certainly can add any dry spice, as little or as much as you would like. So if I wanted to put some salt and pepper in this, or some dried onion, or onion powder, or garlic powder, or granules, or chili, or whatever, you could do that as long as it's in powder. But this is just for plain beans. It's a great way to start. If you've never pressure canned before, this is awesome to do, hands down. There are a couple rules that I feel are important. There are two different ways of thinking when it comes to bean. There is raw packing, and there is you can soak them overnight, you can not soak them at all, or you can quick soak them, which is what I do, where I just, you're going to see it here in a second, where we just bring it, we boil them for a minute, let them sit for an hour, and then we move on. Where you can also let these sit for 12 to 18 hours in a pot full of water, or you can do none of that. I don't recommend, that is not an approved method of canning beans, where you don't quick soak them at all or soak them at all. You just put them in dry and as hard as they come out of the ground. But at the same time, there are plenty of people that do that with much success. I'm just not telling you to do that. I'm not, I'm just not telling you to do it. I'm not going to say you can't. I'm just telling you not to. The processes are a little different. I'm going to show you the quick soak method today. That being said, if you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back and thank you. If you're one of my new subscribers, welcome back and thank you. We do a fair amount of canning over the years on this channel, a lot of cooking, a lot of baking, just food in general, hands down, food and being a good neighbor. But with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Comments, always welcome. I respond to all of them, good, bad, or indifferent. Even if they're not about the topic, I'll still answer, respond. I love to talk. All I ask is you be nice. You don't have to agree, just be nice. We are open to a diverse thought process here. It doesn't have to be the same way of thinking all the time. So I don't want you to feel that you have to conform. All I ever ask is just be nice when you comment, whether it's to me or somebody else. So that being said, why don't we head on down here to the counter, and we're going to get started with basically I'm going to show you the quick version of how I prepared the beans and got my jars all ready. That way we can start canning. All right, I'll see you here in just 1 second. All right, now that we are sorted through and we have rinsed our beans off, and that's kind of important. You want to, because it doesn't matter how well they look clean, they're not. They've got dirt on them, inevitably. Now, rocks are far and few between, but if you happen to get any broken ones, I usually just discard those, because all they end up doing is breaking down in the process and making your water cloudy. Doesn't change the taste of anything, but I think it just looks weird. So I get rid of broken ones, any rocks or pebbles that you find, obviously. But now we're to the point where, since we're going to quick cook these, or quick boil them to soften them instead of just doing them straight, dry, hard beans. And now that we're in here and we've got our about 10 cups of water on them. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this on to boil. Go ahead and get my lid just kicked over a little bit, right? So we got a little bit of vent going on. I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. I'm gonna let them boil for 1 minute, and then I'm gonna shut it off, take it off the heat, leave it covered, and let them set for an hour. Okay, so timer's gone off. It's been a minute. We let them boil. So now what we're gonna do is leave the lid on it, scoot this on over, and let it sit there for an hour. So set the timer for an hour, and when I come back, we'll move to the next step. All right, see you here in a second. All right, so we are at our hour. I went ahead and drained the water off our beans, and I went ahead and rinsed our beans again, right? So we've drained them, we've rinsed them again, put them back in the pot, and then we filled it back up with water. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring this up to a boil again, and then once it boils, we're gonna let it boil for another minute, and then we're gonna shut it off, and we'll be ready to start canning. So let me get this back up to a boil, and when I come back, we'll start doing some work. All right, I'll see you here in a second. Okay, so we're ready to can things up. I let these boil for 2 minutes, and then I shut it off and took the lid off, and now they're just sitting there. The whole reason why we want to boil that up for 2 minutes is just to bring the temperature up. You want your canner, which we're pressure canning, so I've got my 2 quarts of water in it. If you're using a Presto canner, you're taking it to the first mark. There's a handful of canners out there. All of them are about the same, but at the same time, they're all a little different. I'm using a Presto canner. I love this Presto canner, but I know people who have it's the American canner that's got the twists on it. To me, it looks like a lot of work, and it's very pricey, but they love it. They swear by it, and that's awesome. So whatever works for you as far as pressure canners go. That's why I don't dwell a whole lot into this, but it's about 2 quarts worth of water up to, there's a line, very first line that's in here, there's hash marks, and you want to get that warming up. You want your beans to be warm. My jars, even though they're sitting here now, have been sitting down here in the sink, in a sink full of hot water. That way everything's kind of on the same playing field. Now, real quick, things you want to look for when pressure canning. Make sure it is not a water bath jar. See how it's got different stuff on each side? Okay, that is, it can be used for water bath or pressure canning. If it doesn't have any markings on it, which I don't have a can around here, yeah, it may just say ball or cur or whatever on it, or it may just be blank. Those are usually for water bath. They don't always hold up well under pressure canning. So something to keep in mind. But while this was coming up to a boil, I went ahead and heated these up in my water. I got my lids out. I got my rings over there. I also have an additional thing of hot water here, which I need to turn on so we can get it hot, just in case. I mean, we're going to use this water to fill these with, but you may need a little more. You never know. Better safe than sorry. So when we fill these up, which we're getting ready to start now, we want to fill them up. We're doing quarts, and I'll show you pints also. We're going to fill them up to right about here, right where the bend meets, and it's going to be 3 cups, right, or 24 ounces, which is 681 grams worth of beans. If you're doing pints, it's going to be 1.5 cups, 12 ounces, or 340-ish, 340 and a half grams, right? Or 340 milliliters. If you have ball jars that has milliliters over here, just take it up to 340, which is right, once again, where it starts to bend going in. But there's markings on it, so you'll know. And I want to show you why we only filled it up that much, and I want to show you why I don't really recommend that you dry can, or dry can these. Okay, so there's a dry bean, right? Here is one that we quick soaked. I see the difference. See how this one's like 3 times bigger, and it's not really mushy. It's not shredding apart. Like it's hair softer in this one, but not by much. What happens is if you put that in that can, in this jar, just like this, as it's pressure canning, as we're pressure canning it, it's going to start to expand. I mean, even this one is going to start to expand a little more. It's going to expand a little more while it's in this jar. It can take all your liquid out of your jar. It can, but if it gets much below half liquid gone, that jar is pretty much no good. Those beans all above it are going to be absolutely just rancid when you open the jar. More than likely, I'm not saying they will be. You know, if it drops down a little bit, that's one thing. I have plenty of jars. I've had plenty of jars in my life. They drop down a little bit on, but you don't want it to go too far down. You could lose all your water if you don't quick soak your beans. That's why I recommend quick soaking. All right, so enough of the lecturing. All I'm going to do is I'm going to use a ladle. I've got my funnel right here, and I'm going to take my beans, and I'm just going to put my beans in here. Like I said, 3 cups worth of beans, 681 grams worth. I'm going to fill it up to that bend in the line with beans, right? And then I'll show you how to do this one, and then I'll go ahead and do the other 5 or 6 off camera. The pressure canner only holds 7 quarts, so you're not going to get much further than that. But I got my beans up to about the 3 cup mark, and then we're going to take just the water, the brine, and we're going to fill this up to so there's 1 inch of headspace, or down to this rim right here, just like that. Right, so we got it up to that 1 inch headspace. If you're not sure on your measurement, I mean, 1 inch is easy. It's literally this seam right here. It's when you get other things. They make a tool for it, or you can just use a ruler. I just use a ruler, makes it easier. But once we get it up to that 1 inch of headspace, or that bottom rim, we'll go ahead and take a napkin, which I have paper towel right here, and I have some vinegar, some white vinegar. We're going to clean the lid, or clean the rim, right? Just like that. And then we will take a lid, one of our lids, and I like to have mine facing so it either has the decoration on it or where it says ball, and the writing and the date spot is facing towards me. It's just a thing I've picked up over the years. And we'll set it on center. We're going to take our lid and we're going to put it on finger tight, and be careful. It's hot. I mean, if you have to, wear a glove or use a towel to hold on to it, but you don't want to crank this bad boy. You don't want to just strong arm it, finger tight till your fingers will go. Now, if you have to go, you know, with your palm a little bit to get it tight, I get it. My hands get like that too, but you just don't want to crank it down. Once you get it to that point, we're going to take it and stick it in our pressure canner. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do up the other 6, and then when I come back, we'll talk about it next. All right, so we have got our cans in there. Now, you notice there were 2 jars in there that didn't have any beans in them or lids. I put those in there. I filled them with water, just like the other cans or the other jars would be, and I sat them in there that way, because sometimes those things will rattle around. And what that does is it helps minimize, well, eliminates any real movement in there. So none of the jars are steadily, as they're rattling around, boiling, they don't move around and run the risk of breaking. So it's just a little added security that I started doing a long time ago. When I put the lids on, I meant to talk about this. Lids should always never be reused. They should always be brand new. That should be your one expense. You'll have the initial expense of buying all your jars. After that, those lids will be the only thing you'll have to purchase over single use only. So the rings you can use as much as you like, as many times as you like. Things you want to look for though. I don't know how well you can see in there, but there is just a little bit of surface rust on that bad boy. Now, to me, that's okay. It'll still work, all right? Because all it's doing is holding down that lid. Now, when they start down this path, I'm still okay with it. You know, see how it's got a little more rust on it? You know, that's not, I'm not worried about that. What I worry about, most of all, I don't know how well you can see it, but See how that dips down in right there and bounces up real high, and there's another one around here somewhere. And if you look around the side, yeah, right there, it dips down, doesn't hold. That means that this is no good. Okay, if they're bent up and warped like that, or heavily rusted, because heavily rusted may not hold, you know, but a little bit of surface rust, that is, in my opinion, that is not going to hurt anything. So those are the things you want to look for. I mean, idealistically, this one right here is probably about, I don't know, 8 years old, and yet it looks brand new. No rust at all on it, no marks, no marrings, you know, no dents, no dings. So that's perfect. A little bit of rust is acceptable. This, no good. Throw it away. I wanted to mention that earlier, but I forgot. Okay, so we've had this warming up, sitting on low. We've got all our jars in there that we're gonna do, right? So if I got 5 quarts, which I did, that means we would have gotten 10 pints if I'd have done pints. So 2 pounds worth of kidney beans, raw, should it get you either 10 pints worth, 10 small jars, or 5 big jars. The vinegar we were using to wipe the rims off with. What I have left in this little container right here, I am just going to pour down in here. What that does is it will kind of put a barrier on the quart jars, and it won't let them get any hard mineral stains on it. A lot of times, especially if you're using well water, even city water to do the same thing, will put spots on your glass. So to prevent that and to make them look nice on the shelf, you'll want to put some vinegar in there, white vinegar. So now, next thing we got to do is go ahead and put our lid on. And if you are using a Presto and you're new to it, make sure your arrow lines up with your arrow. So arrow on the lid, arrow on the handle. We're going to go ahead and get it closed. And sometimes with the Presto, with most canners, I'm sure, it'll let you go a little bit past the handle. I mean, you can if you want to. I always just bring it back and put it so everything's even. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this and turn it from number 2, or pretty much low, all the way up to high. Now, with that, what we're looking for, this thing's going to start building up pressure. It's going to start building up steam. It's going to let air out of it as it goes. The air is going to come out of here. So you're going to see steam and air just pouring out of here. Eventually, this little button right here, there's a button, is going to pop up. All right, that means it's locked. The lid is locked. Once that's locked, I'm going to take my timer. I'm going to go ahead and set it now, so I got to just hit start. We're going to set our timer and run it for 10 minutes. All right, that's 10 minutes of letting the rest of the air escape, because it's hit a certain pressure that it's not registering, to lift this up, to lift the lock up. 10 minutes of running it after that will get the rest of the air out of it, and it'll be nothing but steam and pressure in here. Then I will show you the next step. Alright, okay, so our timer just went off for 10 minutes. See, our stem is up right there, our lock. When it popped up, 10 minutes. Yeah, I've got a pretty steady stream of steam coming out. I don't know if you can see it on camera. That's a real hard one to pick up, but I can even see it up here. I have my weighted gauge. I'm going to go ahead and get it on there. Be careful when you put it on. Now, what I'm looking for is this gauge is going to start to rise. We need to get it up to 11. Alright, that's 11 pounds per square inch of pressure. So I'm automatically going to just start turning down my heat a little bit at a time. Like right now I'm on high, so I'm going to take it down to about 7. And then as it goes up, I mean, once it hits like 5 or 6, I'll take it down a little bit more. And when it gets to 10, I'll take it down a little bit more. And I want it to hit at least 11. Now, because we're doing quarts, once it hits 11, I will start a timer for 90 minutes. So when that 90 minutes hits, yeah, and that's how long these quarts are going to cook for. If you're doing pints, per se, your time is going to be 75 minutes, or an hour and 15 minutes. So pints, hour and 15 minutes, 75 minutes. Quarts, 90 minutes, hour and 30 minutes, hour and a half, is what's going to happen. Now, if at any point during your cooking or your canning that drops below 11, and this is if you're under 2,000 feet of pressure, when you buy your canner, read through the manual. It will give you instructions on how long, as far as what pressure to cook at and things of that nature based on your elevation above sea level. But here below 2,000 feet, it's 11 psi, 90 minutes quarts, 75 minutes for pints. If it goes below that 11 psi at any given time, we have to start over. We have to get it back up. So I am going to make small adjustments to my heat as it climbs up. No big adjustments ever, no big adjustments. And then once it hits at 11, I'll try to hold it stable there. If you go above it, that's fine. You just don't want to go below it. Now is the time when you don't want to, I don't want to say not leave your kitchen, but you want to be close proximity so you can keep an eye on it. I've had stuff be at 11 psi for 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden it skyrockets or it drops. Why, I don't know. So like, for example, while this is at 11 psi and I'm running my 90 minutes, I'm gonna sit here and watch YouTube. I'll watch a movie. Why not? But I'm not running to the store. I'm not going in the other room to watch TV or whatever. I mean, you can, as long as you come in and periodically keep an eye on it. That's my only recommendation. Don't like run out to the store or get engrossed in a long, in-depth outdoor conversation. So, that being said, when that 90 minutes is up, I'll be back and we'll talk about how to depressurize the canner. All right, see you here in a second. Okay, so our timer just went off. So now we gotta do a really dumb thing and reach over the canner, but turn our heat off, and then we're just simply gonna wait. We have to wait until this gauge goes from the, at 12 that it's at, all the way down to 0. See, I mean, I don't always get to stay at 11 either. This stovetop is actually really hard to get to exactly 11, but we're gonna wait for it to drop all the way down to 0. This lock has to go down. Once that happens, we can take the weight off, and then, don't touch it though. Right now you'll release the pressure too quick. But once that's at 0, that lock goes down. We'll take this weight off of here, and then we're gonna wait 5 more minutes after that. So when I come back, all of that will have happened, and we'll be able to take off the lid and take a look and see what we got. All right, hold on for me 1 second. All right, so our lock dropped, our pressure was at 0. Went ahead and I removed the weight. So all we have left to do is open it. And when you open it, even though it seems safe, you always want to lift anything away from you, right? I see how we had steam coming out. You don't want that going up in your face. I mean, that can burn you, and that's never pretty. We want you, the most important part about canning, I mean, there's 2 things. You want to follow the basic rules there are, so that way you don't make anybody sick, right? That's the last thing you want. And you want to be safe yourself, right? There's not a whole lot of rules to canning, but the ones that are there for a reason, and that's just to keep you safe. And I want you to be safe. That's why I take the time to, go over things and answer questions if need be. But we have gotten those done, so all we have left to do, for tonight at any rate, because we're going to let these set for 12 to 24 hours, is we're going to go ahead and pull them out of the canner and set them to seal, to calm down and seal. And I will try to get a shot in here somewhere. I'll put it like right maybe here, so that way you can see what the water looks like, because we had no siphoning. And if you're new to canning and you're wondering what siphoning is when the water, for whatever reason, it could be a bad seal, it could just be a little too much product in your jar, and sometimes there's just no known reason for it, but the liquid will come out of your jars and into your canner. And it's not always like so much that like it empties your jar, but it can. And you want to look for that, but the water would be discolored, and it's not, and that makes me happy. So what we're going to do now is we'll go ahead and get these out of here right quick. Got our 5 quart jars. Those look gorgeous. I mean, just gorgeous. Here, I'll bring this last one over so you can see it. See our fruits of our labor, so to speak. But isn't that just beautiful? Yeah, and I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm sure you can. The bubbles coming up through from where it's still really hot. That is, in my mind, one of the most mesmerizing things ever. So, set those there. Now what do? Now, we leave those there 12 to 24 hours. So, while they cool, and you should hear them ding, ting, go ping. Yeah, and that'll be that center seal right there. Let's see, I got one right here. Sorry to get in your face, but I got new lids right here also. So, hear that? You should hear that from those. That is the first sign that they've sealed, is when they make that noise. And the little bump right there should be flat, right? That says no more oxygen, it's vacuum sealed. And that can take a little while. I mean, sometimes, man, it's like right now, bam, 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 bam. Sometimes it can take like 10 hours. I've seen it take that long. But we're gonna let those sit there. I'll listen for the tings. And then once they're cooled, we'll come back, talk about what we need to write on them and where to place them at. All right, I'll talk to you here in a second. All right, guys, so our beans are sat out the 12 to 24 hours, well, overnight at any rate. And well, all I did was, after that, the next step was to go ahead and I wiped down the jars, took the rings off, right, so they could be washed. But as I take the rings off, I grab the lid, just the lid, not the jar itself, and I lift it up, right? That way I know that that lid is sealed. It's on there. If I can hold it by the lid, then we're in good shape. Now, what happens if it doesn't? What happens if you lift up and it, oh my goodness, it's open. Put the lid on it, put the ring down on it, stick it in your fridge. Just use it in the next couple of days. That's standard rule of thumb. And one thing I wanted to show you real quick. So one of these, I didn't have quite enough beans, so I put just some cold beans, not quick cooked, and with the few quick cooked beans I had to put in it, because I wanted to show you what it looks like. So that is quick cooked beans. See how we got plenty of liquid in there? This is not quick cooked. Yeah, mostly. See how it's grayish? Well, not gray, but thick. It looks thick and foggy. But the beans on top are still wet. That's good, and it's still got juice up to near the top at any rate. But that's what happens when you don't quick cook them first or let them soak overnight. You'll end up with it soaks up the water, bringing it down, and you could end up with some dry beans in there, half done, dark looking dry. They look kind of weird, but anyhow, wanted to show you that. So after we get them all wiped off, rings off, those are washed. Next thing we're gonna do is, if you look on there, I got the date, the date and what it is, although we can see what it is, written on the lid. The date's important. Ball in particular has a guarantee on their lids for a year and 6 months, 18 months, that it should hold if properly done. So that's good. So we want to write the date on there so we know about that time and when you made it. Most things you put on the shelf, as long as the seal holds, it's good. Because there's no air getting in there. It's vacuumed. So it could last up to towards 3 to 5 years. As long as that seal holds, that's important. I've seen stuff go as long as 3 in my house, stuff that would get like hidden and forgot about. But I've seen other YouTubers 5 to 6 years on stuff, and it still be fine. But you want to at least know when you put it in there, and about how long. I would say 1.5 to 2 years, but upwards of 3. Where to store it? That's what's going to make the key. You want to store it in a dark place. So you don't want it by the window. If you have a built-in pantry or a walk-in pantry or a basement, those are all ideal. someplace where it doesn't get heat. You want it 68 to 70 degrees. This is ideal. 68 to 70 degrees, little to no light. Both of those, temperature and light, will destroy canned goods that are jarred. So like at my house, downstairs in the grocery store, it's 69, 70 most days because it's in the basement, and there's one light that has a curtain on it, or one window that has a curtain on it. The only time the light's on is when we're doing laundry. So that's ideal. But yeah, if you can find ideal, great. But after that, I mean, so it'll vary, year and a half, you know, as far as ball's concerned. So anyhow, give these a try. I hope you will enjoy canning these. You know, if this is your first one, first attempt at pressure canning, I hope you enjoy this. It's simple, it's easy, only a couple rules to follow, and you don't have harmful chemicals in your food by doing it this way. Even if it does cost a hair more, which this didn't. Yeah, we got 5 quarts for about, or 10 cans worth for, yeah, what, a couple bucks. It cost me the lids, that was it. Yeah, and some time. That's a good deal. But I also know that there's nothing in here but water and beans. Give this a try. Let me know if you do. All right. So until dinner or dessert, depending on when this video comes out, I love you. I love you very much, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them and love them very much. They may need to hear it. Yeah, it's gonna make you feel good to tell them. It's gonna make you both smile either way it goes. And you should give them a jar of kidney beans. You know, that way they'll always have something to eat. Especially if you bring them over, hang out, have conversation while you're making them. They'll know how to make them, and they can go home with a can of beans. And you've learned how to, you've taught a friend how to do something important. All right? I love you, and I will see you later. All right? Bye-bye.